Welcome back to the Eyecare Experts, Dr. Terrezza, Dr. Bell, and Dr. Bellard. And we've got a good topic today. Certainly in today's day and age, teleoptometry, and especially, versus in-office eye exams. So I guess for me with optometry, at least, it seems like COVID is when we all kind of went virtual, and then teleoptometry, at least in the state of Florida, kind of just took off a little bit. And I figured it would kind of recess back, but maybe a little bit, but there's still some that are still doing teleoptometry. And I guess we want to kind of dive into that because we get asked, hey, what about this? What about that? What's your views on it? And I want us all to kind of weigh in on, good versus bad, and why we do things the way we do it, and why, other people may do things a certain way. Go ahead.
Well, I'll try to do the good, but I have opinions about this that, I'll try to stay fairly objective and then in the beginning and then weigh in with my opinion. I think there is a place for telehealth in this country and over, across the planet. I think when you're dealing with something as delicate and important and small as the eye, it's exceedingly hard to get an accurate exam from a remote optometrist or ophthalmologist. I think they do okay with low-hanging fruit. If it's a healthy 25-year-old with no problems and they need a which one's better 1 or 2 test, I think that could be done by almost anybody from anywhere. But the minute anything does not go according to plan, those places tend to boot you out and send you to us. So I think very limited use, but some convenience, right?
Yeah.
Probably extended hours can be done Sundays, Saturdays, when maybe traditional clinics aren't open. But that's about the only positives I have for that model, in my opinion.
You want to take it?
I applaud you for finding those. I don't,
okay, I'm trying, because I don't love it.
I've had a bunch of patients come in. The idea that you have a red eye and someone looks at it remotely under minimal magnification and says, oh, this is just a basic infection, here's your basic antibiotic. So the patient pays for the visit, goes and gets the prescription, comes in to see me 2 days later and says, hey, doc, this is getting worse. I went to the remote thing, and there you are. And I see them. There's no way they can put the substances in the eye, look at it, and say, hey, this is not a traditional infection. It's a
uveitis.
It's something else, and you're going to need a viral drug for this because you're treating it as a bacteria. So then you retreat them, you do that, and they're down 2 visits, and a lot of the times you can fix it. Sometimes I can't even do that, try to turn the ship around. Then they're out a 3rd visit because I send it to either a comprehensive ophthalmologist or whatever else is required based on that. And so I'm very negative about them treating anything medical. Now, as Dr. Bellard says, you want to do the standard case and do that. But I argue that it depends on what you're doing. So have they taken occupation into account? Have they taken how you use your eyes? Do they take the fact that you have migraine headaches that are exacerbated when you're on a computer? Where do you have the time to do all this?
Or seen how tall you are.
Yeah.
When you're determining a reading power, if someone's 4 foot
There's
tall,
too much to it. And so you can do
different.
half-baked and get by, which America's big on doing. And, if you're going to do that, my advice is simply cut to the chase. Go to your nearest Dollar Tree, pay $1.25, and throw one on, and you're done. And that'll get you by, too. So it's a question of degree. But I wouldn't send my family to something like that, especially if they're having a medical problem. And if they have a complicated prescription, I wouldn't do that either. Well, then now we're parsing the pie into smaller and smaller slices.
Right. If you don't know what you can go for and you show up, you take an hour off, and a lot of these remote exams are not truly remote. You still go to a physical location. They bill you the same amount we would charge you. You have someone with no education putting a thing up in front of your eyes, and a doctor from California flipping the switches without ever laying eyes on you. They cannot view your eye in 3D. They cannot look within the retina themselves. They have to rely on imaging. taken by someone who they do not employ, or train.
So again, if you're not seeing well, the question is not how to correct it, but why are you not seeing well? You have to answer that question first. And then you go on to second, what are we going to do to correct it? And that's a relatively mechanical spot that's done by computers and robots. I get that. But the robot isn't going to figure out why you got that.
Right.
Well, I liked your example when you started that whole thing talking about red eye. And I think red eye is a good place to start because, we always have patients call in, hey, I've got a red eye or this or that. Well, red eye can be caused allergies, dryness, bacterial infection, bacterial conjunctivitis, or a viral conjunctivitis, fungal, uveitis. It could be so many different things. And for us as physicians, the only way we can find out is to actively look at the patient, whether it's behind the slit lamp, and like you mentioned, staining. We've got to stain with fluorescein. Sometimes we put rose bengal, lysamine green. All these different stains help us to know, are there dendrites on the surface of that cornea? Is there punctate keratitis on the surface of that cornea? Is there inflammation and uveitis inside the anterior chamber?
Is there a foreign body in there? Is there an eyelash in there? Is
There's
there an
so
old
many
contact
things.
lens?
And flip the lid. I mean,
Right.
I can't
How
flip
can
the
you do
lid
that?
to see if there's papillae, is there follicles, which helps us sometimes to diagnose which conjunctivitis is going on. And so there's so many things that we actively take into account to say, hey, this is what we see, and this is the best drop for you. And like you mentioned, there's no wonder why some patients get prescribed this drop and it doesn't help them if you're not looking at all the things that are going on, all the symptoms.
It's a very risky alternative. So it looks to me like it's risk versus profit. So you saved a lot of money, but what did you risk in that process? I think it's a dumb bet.
And I bet you they didn't save any money. If you look at some of the...
Yeah, the insurances pay the same for that
Correct.
3-minute job that I spent time trying to figure out whether it was viral or did she get this from the cat? What happened with this?
Right. Or you spend time for a pediatric case, calling the pharmacist, getting dosing. We do all that stuff. When, even from personal experience using Teledoc, which our insurance covers 4 free visits on, I called, had a question. They said, I don't know. You got to go in person. What a waste of time, I mean, so I see the utility for very brief, where one of those cases where treat it before it gets better on its own.
I think it's a question of ethics, because when someone does not know about it, you can take them to the cleaners like a salesman can.
The only patients that I would say, hey, I would be in favor of it, are patients who are so rural, maybe they don't have an optometrist, ophthalmologist within a couple of hours of where they live, or we sometimes have patients that can't be transported, without a hospital or somebody in those cases, they may have a condition where they can't easily come into the office. In those cases, I would say, yes, it's better that than nothing.
Right.
But we all agree, certainly having the patient in the office and looking at everything for the eye is the best case.
Maybe even like refill situations, where if it's, hey, I have a chronic uveitis, I live in Alaska, I need a bottle of prednisone to make it to get to Anchorage before I can see the eye doctor, right?
I think you're talking 10% of the cases.
I think it's less than 10%, but I think there are a few niche cases where it's appropriate, but I think the majority is, like Dr. T said, it's taking advantage of a perceived gap of care that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and maybe you do it, and maybe they get lucky, and maybe it clears up the redness one time. But then maybe you get something later on and it's the same drop or it's an ointment and it's not working, and then you're out of work or you got a red eye for this. So it's, not only to get you better and get you on the right medication and get you feeling better and get you over it as fast as we can, because sometimes getting on the wrong medication can make it worse, and therefore it delays your recovery by a week or 2 weeks or a month. Where if we'd have got you on the right medication to begin with, you'd already be over it.
Be back at work and rocking and rolling.
What you're saying is sometimes you run red lights and you get by and you save a little time.
That's right.
But one of those times you're going to hit an 18-wheeler that's going to flatten you.
Yep.
Same thing with patients we get all the time that say, hey, I'm sleeping with my contacts every night. And we say, and they said, I've never had any problems, doc. I'm doing this all the time.
Okay.
And we say, I'm glad you haven't had any problems, but usually, eventually, it's going to catch up with you.
Right. I always use the term for things like that. Everything's always fine until it isn't. I mean, I haven't, been run over by a car, but that doesn't mean I can't right now. And if I go play in the street, I'm worsening my odds, you know? So,
Well, I had a patient, just speaking of one patient I saw today, a patient came in, contact lens wear, hadn't worn contacts in 3 or 4 days. Her complaints were light sensitive. It's hard for me to even be outside in the sunlight, doc. It's tearing and it's painful. Those are my diagnoses, okay? In this particular patient, if I would have just taken a picture of her, the cornea looked clear, the conj was a little bit injected, I would have thought, hey, it's just a red eye. But it took me lifting the upper lid and the patient looking down to see that she had a very large corneal ulcer that was superior right there on the limbus that I never would have seen with just a picture.
Yep.
And so I see the ulcer and then, hey, this is what we need to do to get you over this. Makes sense with contact lenses, but that would have been missed if I were doing the teleoptometry on that patient.
And you know how some of these companies, who I won't even name because I don't want to give them any sort of advertisement, what they do is they'll do an online redness check to refill your contact prescription, right? So they charge you $20 to do nothing. You know, they essentially have you look in the camera, steal the previous eye doctor's work that they did getting you the right contact prescription, and remotely sign off on it. May not even be an ophthalmologist, may not be an optometrist. Any MD can sign off on this. And they just risk that, you know, $20 times, they could probably do 1,000 a day because they don't do anything, is worth the liability for the money. And they click yes, 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 $20, $20, $20, $20, $20, without doing anything except copy pasting your last eye doctor's
So what they
prescription.
did, they got around the spirit of the law. And maybe not, they obeyed the letter, but even that is twisted. I agree, and that's an ethical, moral, societal problem, and we ought to have laws strong enough to stop that. You know, if you want to save money, you can go to several sites online and buy glasses for crazy prices, okay? Well, do that. And if you can't see worth a hoot, you can't do it, then you go back and you buy the others. So your damage is limited by that in most cases, okay? But there's even exceptions to that. But if you care a lot about what you're doing, you're on a screen all day, you have a job that you depend on your efficiency to do it, and you're horsing around because you can't see it good, it slowed you up 20%, the boss thinks you're a little slow on the draw, or maybe you don't know what the hell you're doing, okay? And you've got to look at the consequences of your actions and where you save money or where you waste money.
And no one from any online platform cares about you one bit, truthfully.
No.
They say, okay, we can refund them the $4 you spent, and then go somewhere else to clean up the mess. You know, if you get any sort of product with us, any sort of service with us, you know, we live here too. We're all in this community. We don't want to see you on the street and have you think, oh, this guy gypped me out of a pair of glasses. Like, that's just not going to happen. You know, Terrezza's been here a long time, and they haven't run him out of town yet. He's only, you know, gotten more and more influential.
It's Eyecare you can trust, as my patients tell me.
And we're not going to leave you
like that.
hanging.
And we've got 14 optometrists. We've got 8 locations, you know, around the area. Go to TerrezzaOptical.com. We all, you know, do comprehensive exams. We have openings in the schedule for office visits, especially emergency office visits.
Yes.
The other thing to note is we take pretty much 98, 99% of every vision and medical plan that's out there. So a lot of times we get the question, hey, I don't have vision insurance. Well, if you have medical insurance, if you're seeing your primary care physician for your diabetes or your hypertension or for whatever medical diagnosis you have, we accept that. And if we can find a medical diagnosis with your eyes or, you know, your ocular system, we can certainly bill that medical insurance.
And even if you don't, we have deeply affordable, discounted affordable self-pay pricing for routine exams or for emergencies. You know, I want to ask you guys, what do you think that teledoc visit cost? The one that did nothing, where he talked to me for 1 minute and said, can't do anything for you. What do you think I was charged?
I have no idea. I'm going to say 50, but I don't know. I have no idea.
25.
90.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, for sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
So just so you guys know, if we're charging $90, we're going to get to the bottom of this, okay? Because the fact that you could, in good conscience, charge me $90 and do nothing, I don't know, man. Something ain't right with that, in my opinion.
Well, I just know with patients, I think for all of us, we're very social beings, and the best part of our job is the interaction with patients, helping them out, whether it's getting them to see better or helping them out if they have, as we're talking here, an infection or a red eye, getting them the right medication. But we go beyond that. Hey, this is the right medication, but also, hey, this is what you need to do. Do you need to tilt your head back? Are you having trouble getting drops in? Do you need to punctal occlude? How often should you use it? Do you need to shake it up before you use it?
Do we need to check on you again?
Yeah.
Or
do I need to use it at night or just the day? So there's a lot of questions we get at the end of each exam, and we're certainly happy to answer those.
And we answer
also,
them on the phone if you call.
your RX is covered by your insurance or not, we take the time to look all that up, and then we go through the available list and pick the one that is covered by your insurance.
And if we,
that's valuable to you.
And if we get a kickback and we need prior authorization, we'll do it for you. You know, if you need more evidence, we'll send a letter. I mean, we do them all day,
I agree.
Well, back to the one thing that I just popped back in my head. We're talking about glasses there for a little bit as far as online sales. We work very hard day in and day out to get prescriptions as accurate as we can. But it doesn't even matter if the prescription is dead on accurate if you're getting a progressive or a multifocal pair of glasses, and let's say the pupillary distance, let's say the seg height is off, or maybe it's just not aligned properly because it wasn't fit to the patient specifically. That whole prescription is for naught because the prescription changes throughout the whole pair of glasses, and so we can only do what we can do, and certainly getting a pair of glasses that fits you right, that is measured right, is a big part of the battle as far as getting you to see right.
And you use them all day.
The chain is as strong as the weakest link. Plus, if you have a problem, where do you go with it? You come see me, I do it from soup to nuts. You have a problem, you call up Terrezza, and he'll see you, or Bellard, or Bell.
Well, the one thing we can guarantee at any of our locations, if you come and you see an exam or an office visit, you're going to see a real doctor, a real optometrist. There's not going to be a virtual eye exam. There's not going to be a screen that you're looking at. There's not going to be somebody who doesn't answer your questions. There's not going to be any funny business. You're going to actually see a real doctor you can interact with, ask questions, any concerns.
Yep. And if you have questions later, I know right now there's a rampant wave of these AI troubleshooting programs that you call it sounds like a person. Promise you, if you call downtown, you'll talk to Phoenix, you'll talk to Shelby, you call over at your office, you'll talk to Sade or Marissa. Yep. Call mine, you'll talk to Rebecca and Tanya. They all live here, they're human beings. You're not going to be sent to a machine, I promise.
We're very proud, in the Terrezza complex, we have 172 employees. That's local. So we are a force in the area in terms of community and in terms of employing local people.
50 years, going on 50 years, but
it's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, good topic. We appreciate everybody watching today. Thank you, Bellard,
yeah, of course,
for certainly joining in. Visit us. I can't even talk here. TerrezzaOptical.com. With any offices, you can kind of see phone numbers. Each office has its own unique number. Any questions about insurance, vision, medical? Do we carry this? Do we carry that? We'd love to see you for a comprehensive exam or any of your eye care needs.